If you're an agent in a market like Dallas-Fort Worth, you know this scene. You walk into a gorgeous home, the seller is beaming with pride over their new upgrades, and you just get that feeling. You know the pricing conversation is going to be a tough one. So let's break down exactly how to handle it.
All right, let's get specific. Here's the scenario. A seller in Frisco just finished this stunning, top-of-the-line kitchen remodel. They've got all the receipts, they know to the penny what they spent, and you better believe they expect to see every single one of those dollars reflected in your recommended list price.
That's the number that's front and center in their mind, $92,000. And remember, for them, it's not just a financial figure. It's emotional. It represents their time, their taste, their investment, really, the heart of their home.
And then, here comes the reality check. The market, what an actual buyer is willing to pay based on what other homes have sold for nearby, it sees that same beautiful kitchen and says its contribution to the home's value is somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000. And just like that, we have a major problem.
This is the real question, isn't it? That $30,000 to $50,000 gap, that's a minefield. It's where listings are lost and where an agent's credibility can be shattered. So how do you bridge that chasm with professionalism and, most importantly, with data?
Okay, to solve this, we first have to put a name on the problem. It all boils down to a fundamental misunderstanding between two very, very different concepts: cost versus value.
We call this the renovation assumption. And honestly, it's the single biggest source of pricing errors in suburban real estate. It's the seller's deep-seated belief that every dollar they spent automatically turned into a dollar of home equity. In competitive markets like Frisco, Allen, and McKinney, this one assumption can throw your pricing off by 8 to 15%. That's huge.
This slide really highlights that disconnect. You see, renovation cost is all about the seller's past investment. It's looking backward. But market value, that is entirely about a future buyer's perception. And that perception is shaped by one thing: what other similar homes have sold for recently.
And this gap between cost and value, it puts you, the agent, in a really terrible position. It often feels like you're stuck with two losing choices.
Just think about this real-world example. A homeowner in Allen spent $38,000 on an absolutely incredible spa-like bathroom. The work was perfect. But in a family-focused market like Allen, what do buyers really prioritize? Bedrooms and yard space. So the actual market value of that amazing bathroom, closer to $8,000.
Or how about the homeowner in McKinney who converted their garage into a home office? Now, it was a professional job, looked great, but it eliminated the two-car garage. In a place like McKinney, where the summer heat is intense and families usually have multiple cars, this isn't seen as an upgrade. It's actually what we call a functional deficiency, and it can seriously reduce the home's value.
And there it is. That's the trap. On one hand, you can overprice the home to get the listing and make the seller happy for a little while. Then it just sits on the market for weeks, leading to those painful price reduction conversations. Or you can present the correct, data-backed price from the get-go and risk the seller walking away to find an agent who will tell them what they want to hear. Either way, your professional credibility is on the line.
And the cost of overpricing? Oh, it's very real. Right now, the median days on market in DFW has climbed to 41. That's more than a month of carrying costs, of uncertainty, and of market exposure that just slowly chips away at that final sales price. So, how do we get out of this trap? Well, the solution isn't about having a better guess or a stronger opinion. It's about having a better framework for the conversation, one that's built on transparency and solid data.
Look, this isn't about what I think, it's about clear market patterns. In Dallas-Fort Worth, the data is really specific. Exterior improvements, things like paint and curb appeal, they see the highest return, sometimes nearly all of it. A mid-range kitchen remodel, just like our Frisco example, recoups a pretty solid 60 to 75%. But then, look down at the bottom. Pool installations and especially garage conversions often have a very low or even a negative return on investment.
This really gets to a critical shift in how we should see our role as agents. The old way was you'd show up with a number, and then you'd spend the entire appointment defending it. The professional way is to show up with the data itself and simply guide the seller through what it all means for their specific home.
And that leads to a totally new workflow. It starts by capturing all those renovation details right at the first point of contact, not scrambling right before the listing appointment. Then, you generate an analysis that is transparent by its very design. And finally, you use that document to guide a collaborative, data-driven conversation.
The absolute key to making this entire approach work is having a pricing report that doesn't hide its math. You want the document itself to do the heavy lifting when it comes to explaining the numbers.
A truly transparent report shows the seller everything: the weighted average calculation, the individual comps you picked, exactly how you adjusted for their specific renovations, and, this is the most important part, a confidence assessment.
This right here is the core philosophy. When the analysis is clear and defensible right there on the page, you're no longer a salesperson defending a number. You're elevated to an advisor, an expert interpreting the market. The document does the work. You guide the interpretation.
And that confidence assessment piece is so critical. It doesn't just tell the seller the price, it shows them why the recommended price is what it is. If there aren't a lot of direct comps for their unique renovation, the report actually says so. It makes that renovation assumption visible, turning what could have been an argument into a strategic discussion about how to best position their home.
For example, a pricing report from CMA Flow is designed specifically for this exact purpose. It shows all of its math, which makes these tough conversations data-driven, not just a battle of opinions. It brings that confidence level right to the surface so you can have an honest discussion about the strengths and, yeah, maybe the weaknesses of the available data.
So the next time you walk into a listing that has a major renovation, the question is pretty clear. Are you going to be forced into defending a guess and just hoping for the best? Or are you going to arrive prepared to guide a professional, data-backed conversation that builds trust and gets that home priced correctly right from day one?